What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Kendrick Youngblood. Y'all, I'm really excited to do this specific review because it is on Rudy Francisco's new book titled I'll Fly Away. Alright, now if you're new to the channel, you might not know this, but I've already done a review of his debut collection titled Helium. It came out in 2017. This one came out December 8th, 2020. My mom got it for me for Christmas. I can't thank her enough for that because, man, this is one of the best poetry collections I have ever read. Keep in mind, this is the first review of I'll Fly Away by any YouTuber, all right? I made sure to be the first one to put it out there, so we in here. You know what I'm saying? All right, but let me actually read the bio for Rudy Francisco in case you don't really know him very well, and if you don't, check him out. He's pretty dope. Rudy Francisco is one of the most recognizable names in spoken word poetry. Rudy Francisco has shared stages with prominent artists such as Gladys Knight, Jordan Sparks, Music Soul Child, and Jill Scott. Ultimately, Rudy's goal is to continue to assist others in harnessing their creativity while cultivating his own. Rudy Francisco is the author of Helium. He is also an individual World Poetry Slam champion, a National Poetry Slam champion, and appeared on NBC's The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon. And you can find that bio at the back of the book. As I said before, the book only came out a month ago and you can actually buy it on buttonpoetry.com. Definitely check it out. But before we get into this, I just want to remind you all to like and subscribe, all right? I'm going to try to do these more often. I have more poetry collections I want to go through, but I'm only going to do it if I'm seeing some love, you know? So if y'all give me love when it comes to these reviews, I'll do more of them. So make sure you like and subscribe. Okay, so before we get started with the actual review, I just want to make a quick comparison between Helium, his debut collection, and his current collection, right? You can see that they resemble each other in the sense that there's a black character being carried by a balloon. The major difference, I would say, is that, well, hot air balloons are much more effective in carrying people, right? And are larger. But in addition to that, I'll Fly Away is much thicker than Helium, all right? So these two things kind of indicated to me as the reader that this was going to be the superior collection. And it turns out it was true, y'all. It was true. The title of the book is actually based on a hymn that came out in 1929 titled I'll Fly Away by Albert E. Brumley. Okay, enough background knowledge. I'm actually going to get into the nitty-gritty right about now. Within the first few poems, I really noticed that Rudy is extremely introspective, comedic, and vulnerable all at the same time. Like, I don't know how he's able to juggle those different attributes, but he does it in an incredible way. It doesn't seem like he's tackling too much at once, and I'm really impressed by that. Furthermore, I noticed a major difference between reading the poems in my head and reading them out loud. I got more out of the poem when I did that, and that goes to show the musical tools and literary devices that he incorporated into his work. Another thing I noticed about the poems is that he was very particular about where he put line breaks, and that kind of helped me pace myself as the reader and read it as he intended me to. There are 61 poems in total, and they span 125 pages. The book itself can be split into the prologue and then 4 sections after that, like 4 chapters, I guess you could say. The prologue has 9 poems in it, and these act as a sort of sample for the themes that will be covered throughout the rest of the collection. These themes being mental health, which is covered in section 1, love, which is covered in section 2, social justice issues, which is covered in section 3, and then finally family, which is covered in section 4. And by the way, he doesn't actually spell out these themes for you. It's not like he names the sections. That's why I hesitated to call them chapters. But at the end of the day, if you're reading enough, you can kind of pick up that each section has its own theme or topic that it covers for the most part. Like I said before, there are 9 poems in the prologue, and being that there's a total of 61 poems, the 52 poems that remain are split between the 4 sections. And I really like how organized the collection is. The fact that each section has its own theme, but it kind of blends into the other sections really well. It's not very strict in terms of what boundaries it places around certain topics. I really love that. One of the most innovative things about the entire collection, though, I have to say, it is Rudy addressing the limitations of English by inventing his own lexicon. What do I mean by that? Rudy creates his own vocabulary of English words. He actually adds words to the English language that can help describe things that English wouldn't be able to describe otherwise. So certain phenomena that English doesn't have a word for, he creates words for. And I just find that so mind-blowing. Like, you know you're a poet when you're actually creating words to help express things your language can't otherwise. Like, that That was incredible. His poems generate scenarios that can be summarized and described using one of his invented words, and this shows how his lexicon actually simplifies conversation in English. A page is dedicated to each invented word as well as their definitions in a way that resembles the Merriam-Webster dictionary format, which means it shows the pronunciation of the words, it states whether the word is a noun or a verb, it lists a couple of definitions for you, and I find that really awesome because it makes it feel like it's officially part of the language, even though it's not. I hope it does one day, you know what I'm saying? A picture of a hot air balloon can be seen at the beginning of each section. Each hot air balloon image is higher on the page than the one from the previous section, and this gives me as the reader a sensation of being elevated higher and higher as I go through the book. The same thing was actually done in the 2017 collection, Helium, but I really preferred how this one was done specifically because I could realistically see a hot air balloon carrying me, but not one single rubber balloon, you know what I mean? Many poems have what some refer to as titular lines, meaning the title of the poem also acts as the first line of the poem and should be read as such. All of the poems were written in free verse, which means they didn't have any rhyme or meter to them. However, there is definitely structure to these poems. As I said before, the line breaks were very intentional and really helped with the pacing and the reading of it all. There's punctuation, there's capitalization, things like that. Oh, and there's stanzas as well. I forgot to bring that up. Each section has at least one erasure poem, and these erasures are actually adapted from either famous songs or political statements. And for those of you who don't know, erasure is when you black out words from an original text to create a new hidden message from within it. As for how long the poems are, well, this pretty much ranges from anywhere as little as 3 lines to as large as 3 pages. And trust me, the 3 lines, if he makes a poem 3 lines long or 4 lines long, it is deep. And when he makes it a page or 2 long or even 3 pages long, it is deep. You know what I'm saying? So I don't feel like I'm lacking any kind of content, no matter how big or how small the poem is. My 5 favorite invented words would be coolie, grussic, primoris, admonis, and solosum. As for what those words mean, I ain't gonna tell you. You're gonna have to find out for yourself. Get the book. By the way, something I should have mentioned earlier, an index is provided at the end of the book containing a list of all the invented words in alphabetical order, as well as the page numbers they can be found on, which I really appreciate because anytime I forget what one of the words mean, it's very easy for me to just go to the index, find the page it's on, and voila, I have the definition. Okay, now it's time for me to, that kind of hurt. Okay, let's talk about my favorite poems of the entire book. I'm gonna read a few of them, but I'm not gonna give y'all too much, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to spoil the content of the book. At the end of the day, I do want y'all to buy it because you won't regret it. I sure as heck didn't, you know what I'm saying? All right, so for starters, there's Mama Saba Asks. This is the very first poem of the entire book, but also the first of the prologue, and probably the best of the prologue if you ask me. So I'm gonna read it real quick, and hopefully y'all will see why he had to create a lexicon of his own. Mama Saba asks, "What's the word for that in English?" And there I am, trying to catch the breeze with the butterfly net. I fumble through the only language I know and find everything but an answer. Eventually I give up and say, I don't think there is one. English is the shiniest hammer I own, but it's also the only thing in my toolbox. I use it all the time, but there is so much it cannot do. Honestly, it's true. I mean, I not only speak English, I also speak Spanish, if y'all didn't know. And yeah, real talk, there's some words in Spanish that just really don't translate into English because there isn't a word for that phenomenon. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so the very first poem right off the bat shows that, yeah, there are in fact limitations to English, and he creates his own vocabulary for that reason. Another poem I really liked from the prologue would be And We All Know a Ricky. I'm not going to read this one because I really want y'all to get a look at that for yourselves. I'm not going to spoil anything about it. I will say though that it's a bit of a tearjerker, I'm not going to lie. All right, so section 1. As I said before, this deals with mental health issues. A lot of the time depression, but not always. It also covers unforgiveness and how that affects us and how we got to just let go of certain things in our heads that are holding ourselves back. I really, really enjoyed this section. It was one of my favorites. There was another section I liked more, but I'll get into it in a second. My favorite poem from here was either the poem where I lie about everything, godly, or Drowning Fish. I'm actually gonna read that poem at the very end. However, I will read afterwards from this section. Afterwards. One time, while I was running errands, my car decided to change occupations. I assume it saw a couch and said, I want to try that, which is to say, it stopped moving at an intersection during rush hour. I had it towed to a mechanic and he said, it's something small, come back in an hour. 60 minutes later, I was driving to my next destination. Now I know that there is something after the breakdown. Obviously, me reading these poems don't do it justice. Seeing it as well would be very helpful. I'm not going to show you in detail, but hopefully y'all can see what the format for the poem looks like. There we go. But yeah, so like I said, there's stanzas, sure enough. That one really hit home because, like, yeah, even after mental breakdown, sure, you can get back up and keep moving forward. And I really like how I used the car breaking down analogy for that. Really dope. You're going to see a lot of stuff like that throughout this collection, by the way. So yeah, if you like metaphors, if you're a metaphorical person, yeah, this book is for you. Section 2 covers the concept of love and his own romantic experiences. And my favorite poem from this section was A Lot Like You. I'm not gonna read that either. I think that one's a real banger. I'm not trying to spoil it for you. However, section 3, this one covers America's racial and political issues. And like, man, it just hit hard, especially considering everything that happened in 2020. Yeah, it was a much needed collection for sure. The poem that I'll read from there is, it is the year 2036, all right? I hope y'all enjoy. It is the year 2036. And yes, J-Lo still looks amazing. Morgan Freeman still looks like Morgan Freeman. Lil Wayne is 53. He still drinks lean and recently started telling everyone that he invented hip-hop. It is an election year. Beyonce is the Democratic presidential nominee, and her campaign slogan is, "To the left, to the left." Conversate is officially a word. Skirt skirt is also a word. On TV, there are commercials asking if you drank Four Loko in the 2010s because you might qualify for financial compensation. Okay. Popeyes just brought back the chicken sandwich. Chick-fil-A responds by opening on Sundays. And McDonald's finally fixed the ice cream machine. Arby's went out of business 10 years ago, and no one has noticed. Candy corn is illegal. Ouch. Milky Ways are also illegal, but you can still buy guns at Walmart. We had a mass shooting last week, and it wasn't even on the news. We still write poems about racism. Most of the police force has been replaced with drones. Unarmed black people are still being killed, but now it's called a mechanical error. Yeah, this was one of the poems that took me from laughing to like cringing to like flat out being silent. Oh my God. Okay, that's the only one I'm reading from that section because I want y'all to get the goodies, you know what I mean? However, I will say that my favorite erasure poem is in the third section, and it's called The NRA's Statement on Texas, Ohio Tragedies. Godly. He did a really good job of selecting which words to black out and which to highlight. Like, it was... I almost want to read it for y'all, but no, I'm not going to spoil this entire collection for y'all. Climate change was another really good one. Also extremely clever. I'm going to give you a hint. It's not actually about climate change. I'll just leave it at that. Ooh, dang, I almost forgot. Let's just say, yeah, that poem, God. I almost want to read it. Okay, let's just say, notice that, let's just say. But yeah, let's just say every black person can relate to let's just say, all right? On God, like, you've been here. If you black, you've been here. I can guarantee you that. So definitely section 3. In fact, whether you're black or not, you're going to enjoy section 3. I can guarantee you that. Like, he's such a good writer. Even if it's not being written necessarily for you, you can still very much appreciate the content, especially if you're an ally of our cause. You know what I mean? So like, definitely section 3 was amazing. All right. That was my favorite, by the way. I said section 1 was good. Section 3 was my favorite. All right. Section 4, as I stated before, bars. But yeah, as I stated before, section 4 covers family relationships. So like his dynamic between various family members, such as his dad, his brother, his mom, his daughter, stuff like that. Like, yeah, he gets real deep about it. It's really nice seeing the dynamic between him and his family members. In fact, he starts the section with an erasure of the Family Matters theme song. And yeah, like, based on this entire section, you can definitely tell that he thinks family matters. I'm not going to read that because I think that is a really big banger. It's my second favorite erasure poem, second only to the NRA statement one. So yeah, I'll just leave that one out. But there is a poem I definitely want to read for y'all, and it's called Whoever Said a Choir. Whoever said a choir has to be more than 2 people, obviously has never been in a car with my father and me. When Bob Marley is on the radio, somehow we become the same age. The stereo is loud, and we sing louder. This is how we safeguard the memory of us, how we challenge Alzheimer's to a fist fight, how we snarl at the disease, just to make sure it knows that we will not go quietly. Man. My favorite poem of the entire collection is actually called Unsolicited Advice, and it's found in the fourth section. I'm not going to say what this one's about, but let's just say Rudy had a very rude awakening. A pleasant one, but like a rude awakening nonetheless. And it pretty much shows how he had to roll with it. And roll with it he did. Roll with it he did. Whether you're into like race related topics or not, this book is definitely for you. Whether you're into romance or not, this book is definitely for you. Whether you're into topics concerning family or not, this book is definitely for you. And if you're into the topics of like mental health and how to like deal and cope with that and overcome depression and stuff like that, or if you're not into that, this book is for you. Do y'all see what I'm saying? Like, y'all gotta get this. Come on. Like, if you ain't getting this by the end of the year, you're slacking. All right, because this is the book that I really feel is gonna dominate 2020. I'm not overhyping this. Y'all might think I am, but literally, I've never seen anyone mess with the English language like this and prevail. It's mind blowing. All right. Okay, I'm gonna end this review off with one of my favorite poems in the entire collection. And chances are, if y'all like this, then you definitely love Rudy's writing style. So consider this a taste test. This poem is called Drowning Fish. During the winter of 2015, the residents of Hampton Bay, Long Island, woke up to what they say was the worst smell they had ever experienced. Mysteriously, overnight, 1,000 fish had died in the canal. After thorough analysis, they found that the oxygen levels in the water were too low, and all the fish had drowned. Upon hearing the news, many had questions. How does a fish drown? Don't they have gills? Don't they have fins and tails? They said things like, aren't they built to survive that environment? And perhaps this is the best analogy for my depression. This angry deity, this jealous God, this thirsty shadow that wrings my joy like a dish rag, turns every conversation into a conveyor belt that always begins with the phrase, "You look tired today." To be honest, getting out of bed has become a magic trick, and I am probably the worst magician I know. This sadness is the only clean shirt I have left, and my washing machine has been broken for months. When people ask me how I'm doing, I want to say, my daughter is 3 years old, and I'm still not sure if I'm a good father. I want to say, my dad has dementia. There might be a day when I walk in the room and he doesn't recognize me, and I've always wanted us to start all over. But I guess you have to be careful what you ask for. I guess when you pray for something, you have to be a little more specific. I want to say, crickets have been known to eat their own wings, and I too have a tendency to destroy what helps me get off the ground. I really want to say, I'm kind of up right now, but that's not a polite answer. So instead, I pretend that it's Halloween. I jack-o'-lantern my face into something acceptable, and I tell others I'm fine until it sounds like the truth. But sometimes, there is a help me chained to the ankle of an I'm doing okay. Sometimes, I'm fine is the easiest way to say, I don't want to talk about it. Sometimes, all the oxygen in the room becomes water. I feel like I'm sinking to the bottom, like I'm running out of air. But I promise myself that I won't be another drowning fish. I will not die in this canal. Take a deep breath. Relax. The human body will naturally float. So I breathe, and I tell myself that it's going to be okay. I panic, but I tell myself that it's going to be okay. And I cry, but I tell myself that it's going to be okay, because I know there's a version of me somewhere in the future. He's looking at this moment right here and saying, Rudy, thank you for not giving up on us. Yesterday, while I was reading, I saw a run-on sentence, and I thought, you know, it could have ended right there, but it found a reason to just keep going. I smiled, and I said, same. Hope y'all enjoyed. I'll see you next time.